you know of a guy named Stephen Bassett, I would think.
Yeah, sure.
Stephen Bassett was in Santa Monica and gave a presentation at a little cafe where I had inaugurated the presentation. It's called the Flying Saucer Cafe. I had done the first presentation the week prior, and Stephen and a guy named Ron Garner then did a presentation. Then Stephen, I was at that presentation, and Stephen was making all these claims, and I challenged him. I said, please give me proof for any of this. I want you to substantiate your claims. He could not. He did some sort of strange political kind of mumbo-jumbo. Nobody knew what he was talking about. And so I put out a press release because I knew he'd be there for his second half next week. And I put out a press release saying that Stephen Bassett will present proof, incontrovertible proof, for extraterrestrial contact, alien abductions, hybrid babies, blah, blah, blah. And it really riled him and all the folks up because he even said, I'm not going to present any proof, which, of course, is not a brilliant thing to say when you're making all these claims. So I came down to the cafe, and I'm waiting there for a 3.5-hour presentation. That's putting me to sleep, but I stayed. And then I raised my hand, and Stephen knew he had to call on me, and he expected me to challenge him to a debate or something. And instead, I did something that I'd never done before publicly, and that is that I announced to him that I had personal evidence that the Billy Meier case is authentic. Above and beyond everything that already proves it, I have personal evidence that I've been sitting on for over a year. I briefly told him what it was, and I said, I'm offering you and your group, Exopolitics, this evidence and the whole Meier case so that you don't have to waste anybody else's time anymore saying we've got to petition the government because the government doesn't know anything and you can't force it to reveal anything if it doesn't want to. And here it is. All you have to do is all you guys take a look. I'm posting this additional evidence, and once you understand, because Stephen knows the Meier case is real. He's told me that. He just didn't think it was, quote-unquote, time for it. Can you imagine that?
Really?
So I said to him, you could then take the Meier case, and once everybody's satisfied in exopolitics, you can simply announce, we now know there is a real ongoing UFO case, and here it is. You don't have to even defend it, Stephen. I'll take care of that. I'll do all the battling on that. But you could then start to put pressure, as you want to pressure governments and people, start getting to the information, the things that the Plejaren are advising us to do to prevent the destruction of our world and our lives, etc. You could take that verifiably ET-sourced information and run with it. Well, I'll get back to you. It took him almost 2 weeks. Then he wrote some very banal, we're not going to do, and I mean, as if I had said to him, would you like cream cheese on that?
Right.
You know, nothing. So I put up my article that explained what my personal evidence is, how I knew personally that the Plejaren are real, that this is absolutely take it to the bank kind of stuff. And you would think that if the man was sincere and wasn't really, pardon me, a petty politician at heart, he would have said, hey, this is big. I know the case is real. If you've got additional solid evidence, let's take it together. Let's make this thing happen. Because I said to him, the cover-up is over, Stephen. The only thing really being covered up, and I will tell it to you and your audience, the only UFO thing really being covered up is the Meier case. The rest of it, there's nothing much to cover up because there's nothing but, well, we have some photos, we have some sightings. Well, what about the extraterrestrials? What extraterrestrials? Most of the stuff is secret military. That which was extraterrestrial, you still have no proof that it is. I have personally had 6 UFO sightings, and I couldn't tell you in all good conscience what they were other than UFOs. I don't know that they're extraterrestrial, but probably not. So I'm trying to cut through this crap now and get people to wake up because, especially down here, they're being put to sleep moment by moment, overly entertained and distracted, and then you've got dopey UFO stuff that isn't real. So to answer your question, no, it isn't going on. The only thing going on now is a great commercialization of UFO issues that should scare people because the agenda is not good. It's to control people through this. And now the powers that be can be more overt, capitalizing and putting out more films. They're buying up companies and coming out with very expensive UFO-related products. There's a lot going on. People don't get it. But you won't hear of the Meier case in the mainstream. Gosh forbid. It might wake somebody up, and then we've got trouble.
So what's this? What is the groundbreaking evidence you've been sitting on that has you personally convinced?
Okay. Well, I'm going to explain. I'll tell you what the evidence is, but I'm going to explain to you, as I tell it to you, that you have to understand I'm suggesting that people think this through with me as I explain it to them. Okay. Here is what it is. There's a debunker skeptic whose name is Cal Korff. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, I've heard of him. I'm not really familiar with him.
All right. He was the biggest enemy of the Meier case. He wrote terrible, scandalous, false information, put out a book that was just one lie after another. And you don't have to take my word. Two separate people literally went through line by line and verifiably showed that the guy, he fabricated this. I met the guy he hired to fabricate lines on Meier's photos. I mean, he did really horrible things. Okay. In 2009, we enter into an email exchange, and for some reason, I'm not always, believe me, I'm not looking for fights with people. I send him a joke or something, and then he, his assistant got back to me and said, well, you and Cal should find a way to communicate as friends. And I said, look, I can be friends with almost everybody, blah, blah, blah. Cal starts writing me, and he proposes that we do a joint production. By that he means that there should be 2 DVDs. We would both answer the same questions. I would make my DVD, he would make his. I would send him my DVD. He would package it all together and put it out, and wouldn't we be nice? Wouldn't the world have a great hoot that these two guys on opposite ends of this debate would be cooperating? And he tells me, Michael, I'm leaving behind all of the attacks of the past and the name-calling. And by the way, I'll send you the link. This is all up. This is posted. You can read the actual emails. And he came off like a guy who was very sincere. I'll tell you, after a couple months of this, I thought, well, this guy probably is beginning to see the light. He wants to find a way to gracefully acknowledge that this is true. And he was saying, well, I've got questions about some things here. I can't really say that it isn't true. And, oh, boy, he's just presenting this delightful opportunity. So for a couple of months' time, we start getting into fine-tuning how we're going to do this project, and I finally get the questions. I don't get a contract from him I'm waiting for, and he's starting to pre-sell things, and I tell him to stop. There's a couple bumps. And then in November of 2009, I write to Switzerland, and I said to my friend over there, why don't you just ask Billy if he has any advice, anything he particularly wants to see done with this? And he writes me back and says, no, Billy says, no advice, just do what you do. 2 days later, I get an emergency email from the same guy, Michael. Billy asked Ptah, one of the alleged extraterrestrials, to look into this. And he just had a meeting and got information from you, and they are suggesting that you stop immediately if you can. I will send you the full transcript translated tomorrow. I'm going, oh, what's this about?
Yeah.
I get the transcript, and in it, this woman named Florina, who is one of the Pleiaren that comes oftentimes with Ptah, comes on behalf of Ptah and says to Billy, Ptah did as you suggested. He looked into the situation with Cal Korff, and here's what he wants to tell you. This is a setup to destroy you, your work, Michael Horn. Michael has no idea, but Cal is going to set this up with just huge lies and slander, defamation, and to start a worldwide controversy. And Michael would end up being the promoter of this. And then when he finds out what's really in it, he tries to back out. This is the implications. They didn't say, they just said what it was about. And here I was going to be promoting this thing, and of course I don't know about this, and Billy didn't know about it. And they said, we really recommend that Michael back away because this is a big trap. And so I said to Cal, hey, Cal, I don't really need to do this project. Thanks anyhow. Oh, what's wrong, Michael? Why are you backing away? Well, Cal, you never sent me a contract, and you were pre-selling, and I've got other things to do. If you want to put out a DVD, go ahead. If I feel the need to answer it, I will. Oh, gosh, oh, this, oh, that, a few more emails back and forth. Finally, I make it clear I'm not doing it. And out on his website, where he'd been just singing my praises, and Michael Horn's such a swell, he had defamatory attacks about Meier, his family, me. I was a crook. I was going to be arrested. He had death threats up there against us. Overnight, well, it had been prepared. And it wasn't as bad as had he done video stuff where he could have really just, done a virulent thing on this. But it was horrendous. And I actually got in touch with the web hosting company in the UK and contacted them. I don't know if you've ever tried to take down a website of somebody's, a big website. I'll make this part of the story short. I was able to have his website taken down by 3 separate companies because of the defamation. It is still up. Another company took it up, and I decided not to push so I could keep my eyes on what he was doing, and people could validate for themselves. So if they go to calcorf.com and they put in my name, they'll see how many hits there are. If they put in Meier's name, and then they can look around, and you will find that it is one, vilifying, terrible thing being said about people after another. Now, so people are going to say, well, what are you talking about? What kind of proof is this? All right, let me explain something. I have a record that is on my server of everything I've told you in terms of correspondence. All correspondence, and it went on for months. I didn't even post all of it. It went on for months. All correspondence will show to any reasonable person that CalCorp is certainly not conspiring with me to prove that Billy is in touch with ETs. So he's not on our side. He's masquerading very successfully as a friendly guy. Michael and Cal's emails will show that they are seriously discussing something that appears to be legit, all sorts of groundwork's being laid. What's to suspect? Suddenly, here's a document that comes from Switzerland after Meier has said, well, go ahead and do what you're doing. Suddenly, if there's a 180-degree turn describing what's going to come from this guy, and especially that if we proceed with this project, how destructive, how vile and intensely vituperative this is going to be. When I don't proceed with the project, his website instantly goes up with all that content that if you read Cal's emails, wouldn't have even existed.
Right.
How is it that I was correctly advised of this? How is it that neither Meier nor I knew? The only other answer I can come up with is Meier must be a psychic schizophrenic who only when he pretends to be an extraterrestrial can accurately look and see what other people on Earth are doing, which is a pretty good trick in itself. So this is where one needs to understand as using a detective's mind. In the real world, don't expect that the White House lawn will be the place where the UFO is going to set down to prove to you, ladies and gentlemen, there are real extraterrestrials. The proof is in the Meier material. When an incident like this happens, where it's documented, if somebody said, we're going to subpoena your server, I'd say, do it. You're going to find that everything is there in chronological order, and it begs a question. If this was a hoax on my part, why would I have kept it secret?
Right.
I only revealed it because I thought it would be the one thing that would help Stephen Bassett to have something exclusive revealed to him and his group to ice the cake on the Meier case. So people can say, well, what about a photo of the ETs or this? No. You have to go and think your way through it, because if somebody says, well, extraterrestrials are talking to somebody, how do you prove that if you're not there to hear it? Well, have them give him some information that we don't know about yet.
So this stuff,
what Meier has been doing for 50, 60 years.
So
right?
that prediction dated and referenced with its own number?
You mean this one that happened with us?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In other words, well, first of all, the transcript is sent to me in an email. My server has,
Okay.
you know that, like in legal cases, they can subpoena emails and everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's electronically.
I would tell them, you don't even have to subpoena. I'm giving my server permission.
Yeah.
You will find every one of CalCorp's and mine's email up there, and then suddenly you're going to find, after Billy says, don't worry about it, 2 days later, his entire transcript accurately foretelling what a person really had in mind. I would have walked into a Trojan horse. Yeah. I would have sent my DVD to Cal. He would have put out all of this distorted, lying stuff, packaged it up with my endorsement, and started to put it out. And then people would say, Michael Horn, why are you promoting an attack on the Meier case? It must not be true, right? I'd go, what? Oh, I better look at what CalCorp. It would have been horrible.
Yeah,
he could have done worse than he did on his website.
Well, it definitely could have been messy. I think it's really interesting that the date can be electronically and digitally traced. That's definitely some pretty hard evidence there, for sure.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if anybody wanted to, if somebody said, if this is really true, I'll know that the Meier case is true. I mean, I'd say why don't you look at the 60 years of evidence, but no, if this is really true and you can show the dating on this